Hey folks, it's Jared Manninen from the website TahoeTrailGuide.com. Today I'm bringing you another tutorial about doing downhill technique on cross-country skis. In today's lesson I want to cover what I call a step stem Christie. It's known by various other names, but I prefer this one because it's very descriptive. It literally describes what we're going to be doing. We're going to be stepping into a stem position and finishing our stem Christie by bringing our uphill ski parallel to the downhill ski. Step stem Christies are good for very steep terrain. Steepness is relative, all things considered. What might be steep to me may or may not be steep to you. But if we're not feeling confident enough to do a regular stem Christie, a parallel turn, or a telemark turn, or even a snowplow turn, this step stem Christie can come in handy. A lot of times, even with a regular stem Christie, if you remember from one of my previous videos, we're in a snowplow going around the fall line, and just being in that snowplow in the fall line on steep enough terrain can cause us to really accelerate. So this step stem Christie is really handy for helping us shortcut to getting in one orientation on the hill to the other by quickly getting us through that fall line. There are a million ways to get up and get down a mountain. The reason I like a variety of techniques is because on long descents, you'd think that it'd be easy. Oh, you're just gliding downhill, right? Well, you still have to hold yourself in position and do maneuvers downhill, and that can be really fatiguing. And a lot of times on our tours, especially in the backcountry, we're spending a lot of energy and time going uphill, and then getting downhill can sometimes be frustrating and challenging because we are so fatigued, so tired. And if you adhere to the mountain adage like I do, the summit is optional, the descent is mandatory. We need to get home safely. That's one of the primary things we have to consider when we're doing any kind of backcountry or just outdoor adventure. Just having multiple ways of getting downhill safely and in a controlled fashion is like paramount. In order to do this step stem Christie, it's 3 basic moves. I'm going to pole plant downhill. I'm going to step into a stem or this wedge position, and as I transfer my weight onto this outside ski and I glide around in this circle, I'm going to pivot my rear ski behind me and bring it parallel. So this is now going to be the uphill ski and it's in a parallel position. Some people use different sequence, some people don't use poles. There's a lot of different variations. This is how I like to do it because it's about as similar to doing a traditional downhill turn as anything. If I was doing a parallel turn, I'm pole planting down and I'm turning around that pole. If I'm doing a telemark turn, I'm gonna pole plant there and I'm gonna lead change and go around this pole here. So I like keeping that simple. I've generally advocated that in all cross-country ski technique, we really develop our lower body stability and strength and balance. Poles are for propulsion, but that's on flats, that's going up hills. With this downhill technique, especially when it's really steep, I rely heavily on my ski poles. So make sure they're sturdy. Leave the carbon fiber and composites at home. Get aluminum ones. Even if they bend a little bit, you can bend them back into a mostly straight position. But as I'm pole planting, I'm reaching downhill, I am putting a lot of weight on that pole. I'm using that to help push myself over to that outside ski. And even through the turn, I may actually have to keep bending this and pushing me downhill. One of these key things is just being really aggressive on these steep hills. And I know that can be scary for a lot of people, but if you want to get down safely, you have to assume a really aggressive posture, which means leaning downhill. When we step into that stem, where are we stepping? Well, we definitely want to clear this current downhill ski. I definitely don't want to step on it or step under it or do anything weird, so I have to make a big enough step to clear the front of that ski. This is going to be a little challenging. This is going to take a commitment to putting your weight onto that ski and simultaneously bringing that trailing ski parallel so that we're not leaving it behind, we're not getting stuck in some sort of X pattern here. If we're dealing with really steep terrain, we're going to step uphill, transferring our weight, and then skidding around the corner. If I try to step downhill on really steep terrain, I'm gonna go sailing down the hill, tumbling down the hill most likely. If it's a lower angle hill, I'm actually going to be stepping downhill, because if I try to step uphill on really low angle terrain, you step there and then you're standing there, you're not gliding. So you may actually have to throw yourself a little bit down into the fall line to get it to skid quickly on a lower angle terrain. And if the hill is in between, very steep and very shallow, then you step somewhere relative to gaining momentum so that you can skid around your ski pole. So this is a lot of variables involved, so you're going to have to experiment. And in some of the examples that I show you, and it's deep snow, I actually had to be really aggressive because the snow was so deep and it was slowing me down. And you need the momentum to be able to pivot around your ski pole to get into that downhill skidded position, and then getting ready to go into the next one. If you're on steep terrain, you have to be aggressive no matter what. You cannot be timid. You cannot be leaning uphill. You're going to fall down and slide down the hill for a long way, and that's no fun to go about doing things. Yeah, you have to get really on top of that ski pole and then that ski. And I'm using, again, those poles really aggressively. I'm reaching far downhill because I want to make sure that I have momentum to quickly skid around that fall line. I don't want to go gliding down the fall line out of control. I want to whip myself around my pole as quick as possible to get into that new position on the hill. We can totally link these turns, especially when the angle is a little bit more favorable and we're feeling a little bit more confident. And that's one of the things I really love about this technique is, in a lot of respects, it feels like we're running down a big flight of stairs, or we're just kind of like zigzagging down, in a controlled fashion, but with a lot of fun movement. One other note that I'd like to talk about is the fact that I like doing these step stem Christies with the idea of doing a telemark turn. With a regular stem Christie, we're doing the snow plow, bringing that uphill ski parallel to the downhill ski. I like doing that as a parallel turn, or at least with the idea of doing parallel turns. You can totally do a regular stem Christie and go into a telemark stance, but for me that almost seems like unnecessary, just for the nature of this whole thing. We're keeping our feet equal apart as we're doing a snow plow and then sliding them parallel. Whereas with this step stem Christie, we're in this mode of stepping into position. So having that ability to have one leg behind us as if we were walking just makes so much more sense. It's more aligned with diagonal striding and changing our leads. I just find it more natural, so that's why I prefer to do it that way. One other reason is that when we do step into position and bring that other ski, it does allow us to swing a little wider to generate a little bit more force to get us into that skidded position as we come around the fall line really quick. So you can do either or, and honestly, when you have variable conditions, steep terrain, and we're survival skiing at that point, all bets are off. We do whatever we have to, whatever feels appropriate at that time. So if you need to go in a parallel stance, doing a step stem Christie, do it. But generally speaking, I prefer that telemark stance as a finish for this technique. In these clips where I'm clearly on light gear, I'm on skinnier skis and I'm on firm snow, essentially I'm on a groomed trail, there's a little bit of slush on top, I can really get into a nice rhythm going downhill. Now obviously I would not do this normally because it's way over the top for this angle of terrain. Most likely I would just maybe throw in a quick little parallel turn or a telemark turn, or just straight line it and step turn around the corner at the bottom. But for training purposes, it's great working on lower angle hills just to get that body movement into your body. So to learn that and to feel what happens. When I started on this low angle hill, I was like stepping up on the hill and there was no momentum whatsoever. I was just coming to a complete stop. So I started stepping down, and then that really became fun, and you could link those turns together. And you can do that same linking on steep terrain, especially if you've developed your skills and the snow's right, your skis are sliding well. You can do that. It may not look quite as quick or quite as stylized, but at the same time, you can still do it. So it's fun. And then a lot of times I'll do a couple quick links on a really steep pitch until I reach something more favorable to start doing more traditional downhill techniques such as the telemark turn or a parallel turn. So it's just a nice little tool to have in our toolbox so that we can pull it out when necessary to get down steep terrain. Okay folks, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check out TahoeTrailGuide.com for more information about cross-country skiing and snowshoeing. Thank you so much to all of my patrons and people who tip via Venmo and PayPal. You guys are super amazing. I really appreciate the support. I also appreciate those of you who follow me on various social media platforms. You guys are amazing. Yeah, it's actually very beautiful. Crossing my fingers that this is the beginning of a miracle March here in Tahoe. So take care, folks.